Hello, sixth years. This is a guidance video for the start of this term. Absolutely loads of things I want to do with you this term. This week I'd like to do budgeting and money. Maybe budgeting for life, but also particularly looking at in college. I know it's a big concern for students how will they manage their money in college, and like you're in college for such a short time. It's big thing is how do I manage my money in my life, and college is really good like that because you have to manage your own money and you have to make it last, which will hopefully be very good preparation for the rest of your life. SUSI grant is open on the 23rd of April. That's the you have all you're able to do now is tick that box in the CAO saying you wish to apply. I'm going to do a tutorial video on the SUSI grant towards the end of the week. So I think it's on Thursday it opens up. So Thursday or Friday, I'm going to do a PowerPoint sort of show you how to actually apply to the SUSI grant, and I'll put it up on the 6th-year teams post. Change of mind is on the 5th of May, and I'll talk a little bit about stuff relating to the CAO later on. But that's all we can do now with the CAO is wait for that window to open and then look at the choices of the courses we have picked. I put a post up on the 6th-year teams there, looking at the news feed that the CAO give, and basically they just don't know when college will start or when the offers will be given out, because they don't know when the Leaving Cert result is on. And if you don't know when the Leaving Cert result is on, you don't know when the Leaving Cert is going to be corrected. And when you don't know when the Leaving Cert is going to be corrected, you don't know when you're going to get the results. So the CAO will release a timetable as soon as possible, but they'll have to work with the Department of Education, the State Examination Commission, and about 60 colleges, which is sometimes colleges are called HEIs, Higher Education Institutions. So to get an update, you could ask me, or potentially just go cao.ie. To make it easier for you on the teams, I just copied and pasted the news section from the CAO, and likewise, the most important window for any sixth year is the change of mind. So it opens up on the 5th of May. Any course that you put on, you can take off, and you can put on new courses up until the 1st of July. And I can't see them changing that because they want to get the statistics to tell the colleges, well, this is the amount of students you expect to get. So I can't imagine that changing, but it's understandable they won't know when the offers are out because they don't know when they'll have access to the results. Later in the term, I'd like to talk more about transition to college. It's a real big theme for me on this term, and I'll also heading towards the Leaving Cert. I'd like to look at exam technique. So there's a lot on. Now, if there is something you would like covered, like you feel like a theme has emerged amongst your friends or something you feel, just let me know by chat or by email and I can add it into the program. We all have to be sort of flexible and respond to this crisis, and I'd like to do that with you. So if you feel it's an issue for you, most likely it's probably an issue for your peers, and that way hopefully I can try address it as best I can through a YouTube video or an online tutorial. So a few just a piece for advice here just for this term. One of the best piece of advice I ever got when I became a teacher was sitting down. I was like 22 at this stage, and I sat beside this I think it was a geography teacher, and he was like, well, do you know, Kevin, I don't really care what I cover with the class first 2 weeks. I was like, what? You're not like following your scheme of work and this and that. And he said, no, the first 2 weeks really is about setting the tone that, I want to be able to work with this class maybe for, a whole year. So the first 2 weeks is about setting the tone and creating an environment that work can happen. And it really made, like looking back on it, was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got about teaching. Because if you have a class that's working with the teacher and the teacher's working with the class, it creates a sort of a rhythm that uh, that works for the long term, and that small bit of time investment means that if it works smoothly from then on, is really well worth it. And what I'd ask for you for this next 2 or 3 days, a lot of it is about setting the tone for this term, potentially working at home. And what I would try and encourage you to do is try and treat it as much as possible as a 9 to 5 job, where you start work at 9 o'clock and you finish at 5. Because that's like 6 7 hours. That's more than enough. And potentially, if you do that, give yourself the evening off then to sort of de-stress, get a bit of balance in your life. You sleep better, and that will allow you hopefully to do the same tomorrow. And because really, like, it's about working intensely, not clocking up crazy amount of long hours. Like if you did 10 hours today, you probably might do 2 hours or 3 hours tomorrow of quality work. And so it's about trying to get into a rhythm, and ideally I would say is start work at 9 o'clock, finish at 4 or 5, with some breaks in between. That's manageable, and you might be able to do that the next day and the day after that. Now, you might find yourself very tired in the mornings, and that's why what I'm talking about, setting the tone, it's worth spending a couple of days just focus on creating an environment that is sustainable, that works for you. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be doing a leaving cert in the morning time. So like if you're doing all your study at night, or if you're doing all, maybe not bringing much intensity to your work, it's very hard to turn around and then do a 3 hour paper where you have to work intensely for those 3 hours. So that's what I really would try and encourage. And really, the worst type of study you could be doing now is just reading a book and just maybe even writing up notes. Ideally, you would be doing questions, or the book is closed, trying to write up your own notes and then go back to the book when you need it. Because what happens is if you go over material that you know already or you half know, your mind starts to think you know it all because you're familiar with it, and doesn't mean you actually know it. So having the book closed, trying to answer questions, meaning you're practicing the work, you're improving your exam technique, you're reinforcing what you know, but you're also identifying what you don't know, and then you go back to the book for a specific piece of information. So try, if you can, try and work with the pen in your hand, writing as much as possible. I know one thing that always happens to me, I love gardening. I really love it. I must show you some plants or something like that. Link it back to guidance. That would be nice. But you probably have 10 things to do. And what is difficult, if you have got 10 things to do, sometimes you can flutter amongst these 10 different things without actually feeling you're getting anything done. And that can increase your stress levels. So dedicating a little bit of time, either the night before or first thing in the morning, to write down the 3 or 4 things you'd like to get done. When you write down the things that you want to get done, then prioritize them, as in saying, well, this is the first thing I'm going to do, and this is then the second thing and third thing, and so on. Once they're prioritized, you then have a checklist that shows what order of work you have to do today. And that hopefully will serve you. And that then, by prioritizing, you're introducing a time scale that might work for you. Because you might say, well, this is written work, I'm doing that first. Then maybe I have a college Q&A session to do. That's a different type of learning. Priority number 3 is to get back to the books and do another written assignment. Priority 4 is to watch that live lesson that the teacher's hosting. So you introduce a sort of an approach that will work for you as well. So it might seem like a waste of time, but the research would say I think you're 80% more likely to do something if you write it down. So spending maybe 10-15 minutes at the start of the day, get an A4 page like I do, write down what I want to do, and you'll be a lot more likely to do it. Cool checklist. Now, as I said, I'm going to put an online tutorial lesson, like maybe me talking into the computer screen, about the SUSI grant and about how to apply for it and what it means. And likewise, don't feel under pressure with the SUSI grant if you want to apply. It's only opening on Thursday. So like if you were to apply on Thursday, you might be in the first in the country to apply for it. But it's nice to make the application. If you're uncertain about the SUSI grant, whether it's for you or not, there's an online survey you can do on the SUSI's website. It's called an eligibility reckoner. You can apply, fill this short survey out with your parents, and then you'll know if it's for you or not. So it's a brilliant it's a brilliant application. A lot more important than the Here or There scheme in terms of accessing college. If you can get it, it might mean you don't have to pay student fees, and you might get money towards the cost of your living. So it really is worthwhile, and I'll hopefully do a comprehensive video on how to apply for it. And if you're not applying for the SUSI grant, you don't need to watch it, but if you do, I would recommend that you give it a look. Guidance appointments. I'm going to put a post out to say students that, like, I'm really happy. Like, I think the chat feature works really well, and the email. So like if you have any question, you can just through the chat feature on Teams, you can ask me a question, and I'll hopefully get back to you as promptly as soon as I can. With guidance appointments, you might want like a face-to-face guidance appointment, or you might want a phone call. The appropriate way, because there's policies now, like over Easter by the IGC, the Institute of Guidance Counsellors, about what way is it ethically to do it and what guidelines and what recommendations they'd have for guidance counsellors. So they only came out, I think it was the 10th of April. And likewise, I don't see any particular reason why a student can't, have a guidance appointment through Teams. So like there's a video call that you can have on Teams that you would be able to say, look, hey, Mr. Clarke, I have this question, could I have a guidance appointment? Then ideally we could get a slot that would suit both parties for say like 20 minutes or half an hour, and we could have a chat, and that might be better for you than maybe over and back. So if you would like an appointment, just express that interest to Teams, and if I can, if appropriate, we'll set a time to have a chat over the internet through the Teams function, kind of between 9 and 4, and a time that suits you and a time that I'm not doing something like this. Keep an eye out, and that goes for students in other years as well. So I know sixth years, I've had loads of messages from sixth years and TYs and my class tutor. I've had some from third years, but I haven't had a lot from other people in other years because maybe they don't realise. So I'm putting a general text out. But if you have a sibling in first year, second year, if they want any guidance support, the best place is through email initially, through the chat feature of Teams or through email, and encourage them to do so. I'm putting a post out through FlexiBuzz for that as well. Now with the CAO, there's bound to be, I suppose, watch out for speculation. And it must be very difficult for you to work through all this uncertainty. And you might feel, well, I don't know, I'm okay now because teachers are checking in, what will happen in the summer before the exams? Or you might be wondering, well, like, I'm applying for college, but when will college start? And likewise, we just don't know. Like, we don't know for sure. Likewise, logical sense would mean if they push the Leaving Cert back, by 2 months potentially, that would push college back, for 2 months. And two of my friends work in DCU as lecturers. One is a technician, the other is a lecturer. They don't know what first. I was asking them for the inside track. They don't know when first year's 2020 is going to start. Like it could, so you could use an awful lot of your energy wondering about when is college going to start. The one thing I would say is they're all going to be on the same timeline. They're not going. It's not going to be UCD is going to start in September, and DCU starts in January. It couldn't. It couldn't be like that. That's because the CAO will coordinate with all the different colleges. And I'm asking you, I suppose, recommending try and focus what's in your control. Right now is the CAO window opens up on the 5th of May, and that's all about selecting the best course for you. And if you could, what can take a lot of pressure out of the Leaving Cert is by making a really good, comprehensive CAO application that has level 8 courses, a lot of level 8 courses down that have different entry requirements, and a lot of 6 and 7 courses down that have different entry requirements. Like one thing people may or may not know, I know I have spoken about it, but there's this perception out here, if you fail your maths, you can't go to college. And I'm not recommending failing your maths, I'm not pushing it, but you can do an arts degree or a law degree or a social science degree if you don't pass your maths. So like if you're worried about, I'm not sure if I'll pass my maths, that's creating stress on the Leaving Cert, the CAO can help with that, because you could apply for an arts degree that might still allow you to do the same course that you want to do, just an alternative route. And you now know that the CAO has taken a little of my stress away, because if I did happen to fail my maths, I can still pursue my career through arts or through law degree. So just, I suppose that's how the CAO can help. Likewise, for example, business studies in TUD, their business and management degrees about mid-400s, and that might be your first choice. You could do it as a level 6 business studies for 300. So like that allows you to eventually end up in your favorite degree, but potentially for 140 points lower. So the CAO, a really good CAO application, can help take the stress away. And that window is the 5th of May, and it's opening really soon. I'll be doing a class specifically on it as well. That watch out for speculation. That was a bit about the CAO. It could be speculation about the summer. It could be speculation about project work. And what I would say is try and keep an open dialogue, say maybe with your parents or maybe with teachers in school. If you have a question, ask, write a letter, write an email to a teacher, write an email to me or chat, ask about it, and we mightn't be able to give the answer, but you can see how if you get caught up in a lot of speculation, it makes today really, really difficult. Like imagine if the Leaving Cert was cancelled, how possibly would you do study? You keep yourself motivated. So I would and it's something I would do myself, just focus on today, commit to the moment, and if you can do that, today hopefully will be a success, and that might make tomorrow a little bit more manageable. If you're focusing about things about 2 or 3 months away that may or may not happen, that's going to increase your stress levels, because generally we don't wonder, or ponder things that will happen that will be good. We generally ponder or worry about things that are bad, and if something bad's happening, you will be dealing with it in the future. You're not dealing with it today. So what I would try, and this to everybody, try and avoid the speculation. Say it's like, that's out of my control, but what's in my control is trying to put my best foot forward today. Because if you were working towards the junior cert happening in June, and you're working really hard, working towards that date, and now you have 2 months more, you're in a better place than someone a month ago thought, they're going to cancel the Leaving Cert or they're going to delay it. you're probably still in a better boat working towards that June deadline because you've done more work between now and then. So just, I suppose, try and, back to what I said about, if you can, treat it as a job. Next 2 or 3 days, it's not about doing a huge amount of work. It's about setting a manageable, workload every day that has some time off, that has some fun, that has time to de-stress, to get away from technology, so you sleep well and you can do something similar. 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, whatever it is. If you could do that every day, that could add up to something really great. So so later in the week I'd like to do a class on budgeting, and the SUSI grant. And in between, like, if I can help in any way, if you write an email or send a message on the chat feature, I'll hopefully get back to you as soon as I can. And just, it's is a very, very difficult time, and no matter what way you look at it. And so I think it's important to be fair to yourself. That I think sometimes people can set the bar really, really high. And I know in the previous I talked about, like, if you had a scenario that, well, say I will do at least, say, 4 hours a day, if you do at least 4 hours, right, and then you end up doing 5, you feel really, really great about that day because you did an extra hour. It's like bonus, high five, yeah. While if you say I'm going to do 7 hours every day, that's just not possible. And you end up approaching study in a way that I'm just trying to spend all this time. I'm not trying to get stuff done, and I think if you get, say, 4 hours work done, and it's like, say, 2 o'clock, you will feel really good about that day, even if you only do 4 hours, because you started that work day really, really good and you got stuff done. And especially if you're sticking to one job, getting it completed, moving to the next, you might say, well, I had 5 things to do. I feel I didn't get the 5 done, but I got 4. You feel less stressed. But if you flitter from 5 different things and don't get any of them completed, that can create, a little bit more stress. So it's really great being back. And if I can help in any way, please use the chat feature. And best of luck with it. And try and, if you can, keep an open dialogue with your teachers. That if you have a question, not a bad idea would be to have a copybook that if you have questions during the day, just to write them down so all your questions are in one place. And you then can maybe address those 3 questions in one email. And just, keeping a record of issues within subjects that you have a problem with. Say you're in organic chemistry and there's one specific problem you have within that, take a note of it, and then, in the future you might be well placed to try and address that. So just, I suppose that would be trying to be aware of the problems that you're having. Then if they're in one place, you're really putting yourself in a good place to actually get on top of them. And that's what working with the blank page can really do to help, is identify what you have the issues with, what you don't know. And then you hopefully, when you identify what you don't know, you can then maybe go with a teacher to get on top of that plan. Like if you are specific with a teacher, say, this problem in maths, quadratics, I just can't do quadratics. How could you help me with that? That's a lot better than going to teacher with algebra. I don't know what to do. So the more specific you are with your request, the more likely you're going to get help. So it's really great. I keep an eye on the posts on the 6th-year guidance. There's a lot of opportunities come my way, but the timeline is very short. So today, Johnny Cooper, the Dublin footballer, he works in recruitment in DCU. He sent an email today around 12 that's saying that DCU are hosting Q&A sessions at 2 o'clock every day this week. So the second I got that email, I put it up on the 6-year posts, and there are different team talked every day this week. So this week it was business. Today is business. Tomorrow is engineering and computing. I think Friday is education. So every day is a different talk. And if you would like to go to DCU, that will answer your questions and hopefully get something out of it. Okay, so I'll see you later, and keep an eye on the website for that budgeting and the SUSI grant for later in the week. See you later. Bye bye.